All right, all you devils out there, happy Friday. Sam here with you. It's about 12:45 my time here in Austin. We're just going to get an update here on Bitcoin. It hasn't moved very far from last week, but there's a few things that are noteworthy here. We'll look at how the dollar is pretty much affecting everything in the financial markets. So we're going to dig into all of that. Now, before we do that here, I'm going to just give you a heads up here. You're about to get exactly a 2-minute spot on our sponsor. So if you're not interested in that and you're not in the market for a new exchange, you can just fast forward. It's exactly 2 minutes long. For those of you that might be open, okay, let's take a look at it. What's this all about? If you want to see something, of course, BitGet is our sponsor. So here's a little bit of information about BitGet, and I'll be back in exactly 2 minutes. All right, cool. Thanks. Okay, here we go. So I thought I'd start here. Now, it hasn't gone very far. We were in this mess a week ago, so it's not a dramatic change here. I think we've got a couple of handles, a couple of different ways we can deal with this here that makes some sense here. But I thought I would start here. This is kind of a reasonable way. Often, and I suggest this is a good exercise, we get so influenced by the current count we have and, is it working? Sometimes it's a good idea to just get everything off the chart and just start from scratch and just look at it and say, okay, well, if I hadn't been tracking this for 3 years and, living through every impulse and retracement over we're over well over a year of this crypto bear. How would you approach it, right? Would it be with the same set of eyes? Would it be the same? If you saw this chart just as it is, the potential for this 5 down here certainly would be likely, right? If you had a little Elliott training, your eye's going to see a 5 there. Now, I've said this before, we have a tendency to fill it in, right, in our mind's eye. Of course it's going there. Just a suggestion, right? Let's let the market show it's going to do it before we make assumptions there. But looking at that, let's put some rudimentary. So, what would be your first thought, right? So, would it be to put the 3 here? Is that your first thought? Well, I think my first thought would be, okay, is this 4-5? Well, let's just consider that for a second. Let's get that up to something. All right, if this is 4-5 and we've got a 5 coming down here. Well, I do have this count mapped out over on Motive Wave here, and we'll look at that in a second. But just to keep it simple, if this is going to be an A and we're going to get a B, well, okay, sure, we could double bottom here, but you might expect something a little more along those lines, A, B. Oh, here, let's put the whole thing together, right? So, what would we really be anticipating there? Oh shit, is that too far? That might be too far. Hang on a second. Let's get this. I want you back here. Let's get you up about here. Bring you about here. Now, we want algo target, right? Actually, I wouldn't want to bet against that. But we might also look for something more common that we might anticipate. I'm going to just kind of eyeball it here. All right, so candidates down here would be in this range for traditional A, B, C. That might be 6,500, 5,500. So first thought, does that seem reasonable? Well, there's no reason why it couldn't do that. Now, I just was listening to a miner get interviewed yesterday, and his comment was, if we got under 10 grand, many of the miners aren't going to be able to turn a profit on mining. And that may indeed lead to a bit of a self-correction, as in fewer miners, fewer coins. That might correct the price unto itself, right? We see that in crude all the time. So, okay, could we be going down here? Well, it's hard to argue with that. It's certainly a perfectly reasonable Elliott projection, right? If this is going to hold as a 5. So really what it comes down to is how are you interpreting that? If that's your 5, well, then this is your expectation. And we'd be, if we're going to use, come here. If we're going to use these levels, let's take it all the way up, right? Well, we'd be well past the golden zone. Let's go to platinum. Oh, where's platinum here? We'd be coming down between the 786 and the 887, mighty deep, right? So things have gotten very, very ugly across the entire crypto space, if that's what we're doing. And we can't say that we're not doing that, right? There's nothing here on this chart that would say, well, it certainly can't be doing that. Of course, the market can do whatever it wants at any time, right? So Elliott is just a way to try and interpret the chaos so that we're not just winging it all the time. That's the value that it adds. It gives us historical context, patterns that are prone to repeating, not because they're magic, because people tend to do the same things over and over and over again, particularly when it comes to money, right? Fear and greed, right? That's really all that Elliott Wave is trying to put some sort of logic to, right? So greed, fear, right? Greed, fear. That's really all it's doing. All right, so we as technicians can look at this and say, well, okay, well, all right, where are we now? Okay, well, here I just added up there. Well, if this is a completed impulse, well, this would be our prime. Come on, trading view. This would be our prime zone here, right? Right, most probable, highest probability location for a wave 2. Okay, well, how could we make that work in a way that would be consistent with Elliott and what we see here? Well, if this is going to be a 5, it's either starting or finishing. All right, so I know experienced Elliotticians are already ahead of me, right? Or I'm sure you have this count already. So if it's not starting, it could be finishing. Well, if it's finishing, how are we going to work that? Well, seems the most logical way to approach that would be with a count here that is unpopular amongst many Elliotticians, but I can't invalidate it, right? So you'd have to do it this way. The market is kind of forcing you into this. You'd have to do it that way. Oh, let's get it up here. Let's put it in yellow. It's not prone to do with corrections. Okay, so A, B. If we're finishing in a 5 here, this would be the most reasonable alternate. Now, right, we'd certainly be paying attention to the 1 here, right? So the anticipation would be we're going to retrace, it's going to get close, but we're not going to break it. So the 50 is going to hold. Right? If this is, well, okay, so this would be 1, 2. Now if we go here, okay, now we're in between, right? So now the 50 could give us enough cushion right here. So we wouldn't overlap. Okay, well, let's consider that. If this is the 4 and we're in a 1, 2, 1, 2, okay, which is possible, right? If that's the 4, okay, well then it doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's going to hold, right? So it doesn't look like this count's going to work, because if we come in here and we just again, I'm just trying to keep it simple. If this is 1, 2 and we're in the process of working on 3, okay, well, boy, it sure looks like the probability of this breaking here is pretty high. So then that eliminates this quickly, right? So it's off the board as a candidate. So it's not, I mean, eliminating a possibility is not necessarily a negative thing. I mean, this would be very bearish, right? So for any potential that we can get out of here without overlapping that 1. So if we do that, then I think you're really pretty much locked in here, right? So this has got to be, you got to be thinking more about this count here. So it's got to be 4 into 5, and we're starting something here. Well, again, in the context of, okay, let's keep this simple. If this is an impulse. Now, there is one little variable here that seems to be worth considering here, which wouldn't change it much. But this is starting to look a lot like we might have a triangle here. Oh, where are you? Oh, shit, I thought I had it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it looks like we might have a triangle here. Oh, so if I draw it out here, it would be A, B, working on a C, D, E, right? And then the implication is we're down again, right? To get the 5, oh, maybe the 4 is over here. We'll see, right? If this holds, it's not okay. Well, this works. We do it this way and then come down here, so we have a descending triangle here, A, B, C, D, E. Now, it's always tough with a triangle to project before you have D, E, or even if you get D, right? So even still, because certainly this could be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Right? You can see how that could be interpreted that way, because we don't have the classic, perfect swing structure of a triangle. But certainly, it's a potential path here that we could be looking at. Again, does it change the outcome? Well, I mean, we're hoping the 50. Here's invalidation right here. Right? That's then we're overlapping the 1. And then off the board comes any possibility here that this isn't that we are working on an A wave here, right? Because we can't possibly have a 4. So looking at that, okay, so if that were the case. So let's consider that. If we come down here for an A, so now we're assuming this is part of a much larger correction. So what are we, again, we just looked at it. A, B, C is what would be what you'd be anticipating with a very deep correction here. And again, something has gone very wrong across the crypto space, and people are bailing and panicking. And well, now, we don't need to assume that just yet, but we can't eliminate it. So let's not have a blind eye towards it. Let's get these all off here. Okay, so having looked at what would be essentially worst case in the face. All right, well, okay, so if that's the worst case, well, that would be pretty severe, right? But a whole lot of people in a pretty deep drawdown. Okay, so we've looked at the worst, and okay, there it is. Well, okay, so let's start considering some alternates, right? So is there another way that we can count this, right? I mean, certainly this is. Let's go back here. Certainly, this coming down as this 5 here seems to be the most obvious, the easiest to spot. I'll give it most probable. Again, starting or ending. That's going to be up to the individual Elliottian. Well, let's let's bring over motive wave here, and let's look at some alternates here. So let's look at how else we could be interpreting this, because as is often the case with Bitcoin, some of these 5s can be interpreted as 3, so it's not giving us extreme clarity here. I want this to be a little straighter. Okay, it's not giving us great clarity. So if indeed this is a 5, well, how else could we get out of here? Well, so here we can work a zigzag into a candidate here for a W. Right? We looked at this last week. Well, if we're going to do that, the anticipation is that we're going to stay consistent with this channeling, and we would need this C to kick. We would be anticipating likely 50 to a golden zone here for the X if this is going to be a WXY. It's the same thing. We're still breaking the wave 1 pivot. What doesn't matter as much now, because now we're looking for the 2. We could do it through the WX and then looking for the Y to come down here. And I've just had motive wave identify some high probability targets for the Y relative to the W from the X. All right. So probability. So what does that require? It means that what appears to be the start of the finish of an extension, as we just looked at it, we might get a little bump out of here, and we got a 3. Now, we can look at some counts that would have the 2 in here, but right now, given the macro background, it's hard to argue with path of least resistance is lower. All right, so again, that doesn't mean we must go lower, but that certainly does seem to be, again, path of least resistance. Okay, so if we can do it through an X, okay, well, let's let the market lead us there. And again, we'll look at how we can get there. So that's that. Here is the more bearish here, and I've just added a few other features here. So if we're going to go A, B, C, and again, just using common wave relationship here, we'd be down to 6,500, 7,000. Here we'd have an A length of the A projection from the B. Here would be 100%. You'd be right in line with the channeling. You'd be at 100% in time of the 2 relative to the 1. But now note the date here. We're out in the tail end of 24, the fall of 24. That's a long wait. The pump here to get that B in here, if we're going to do it through an A, B, C, right, again, on the assumption that we're working on an impulse to start here, kicking the B would take you between, well, let's call it 30 to 35, and then we're down here to 6. Right, again, extremely bearish, but very, very, very possible, right? No way around that. Oh, here, that's kind of variation on that. If this is 1 and we're going into the 2 ABC, we just looked at this one. Let me get all of these handled. This is probably the least popular, right? So we're still working on a 4, right? I get a lot of resistance on that count, which is why I stay with it, right? Often is the most obvious. Is not always what Bitcoin's going to do, so I keep this count alive. We've just gone AVC. The 4 is in. I know. Nobody likes that count, but makes me like it all the more. Oh, that's an hourly here. We won't do that here. So I think I got all of those that I wanted to talk about over there. All right. So I've had several people asking about motive wave lately. And those of you that are interested in that, they've got a very generous trial. I think it's a 14-day trial. You can just click our link underneath here. And if you want to support the channel, it's a nice way to do it. It's in our link tree. Okay. So let's come back to, where am I? Here, let's see. Keep rolling here. Okay, let's look at a couple of these scenarios here. So again, probably the most agreed on count is that we've got a 1 in here. So off of the COVID low, we complete an impulse. Okay, well, what else could we be looking at here? Well, as I was just showing you, these can be interpreted as 3. So we could have an ABC, ABC, ABC. Now, can we get out of here with the idea that the two is in? We've gone ABC here to give us a WXY, and now we're working out of here via a 1 deep 2, but right, this possibility remains alive, although it's certainly challenged. We don't have the issue of worrying about overlap. Well, here I'm on BitGet here, so I don't have as much history. I don't have to deal with that. Oh, geez, are we going to overlap that 1 because it's no longer an issue for me? So the question is, where's the 2? Right? Is it going to be here, here, golden zone? Right? We can look at that deeper. Well, I mean, here's 6,500. If we were going to ABC, that's what we were just looking at. Is this a possibility that the 2 is in? Well, we got to dig in there a little bit. Let's go to a. Oh, shit, let's start with an 8 here. See if we can make sense of this. Okay, so we'd have W, X, ABC into the Y. If I get that here, it doesn't really matter, of our 2. Okay, can we get out of here? Well, let's zoom in a little bit more. This is so open to interpretation. There are probably 4 different ways you could count this. So I'm going to keep it simple. I'll let you decide how you want to count it. It could be, again, a lot of different ways you could count this. But let's just go with the 1. All right, so let's call it it's a diag. Obviously, we got some sort of diag here. Okay, so if this is the 1, well, we can go, we can go A. I have it as a triangle. You could probably just go A, B, C. A, B, C, right? So now we're going to, let's do it. Let's make that easier for you. So this is the A. Then we're going to go A, B, you have to deal with this impulse, right? It's not a 3. So you got to deal with that impulse. This is a way to get you there. So that in blue, A, expand the B, rip impulse for the B, and now we got the C in here. Now, is that a good looking finish? No. Can you squeeze one in there? How much a purist are you? Yeah, you can, right? But I'm kind of operating on the premise that, okay, big swing structure. Here's a motive wave. Here's a 3 to correct it. Okay, how realistic is that? Is this reasonable? Is it unreasonable? How deep are we? Well, we went 887. I mean, that's there for a reason, right? I mean, it's not like we haven't seen that before. But the bigger problem is what's come off of that, just this chop mess. Not much we can really sink our teeth into there and say, okay, I got a handle on it. What do you have a handle on? Chop. I don't think anybody has a handle on what that is. I don't know that it's possible to get a handle on that. Now, all right, we can get down to the 5-minute, and there's probably trading down here. But for the long-term swing trader, is this enough? Well, you're sitting here. I've got the Sonar Labs indicator on here, right? And you guys all know we're partners with them. And this is the daily demand zone. So I'm looking at an 8-hour. So I've got the higher time frame is the daily. I'd probably go to the weekly here, but we'll stick with the daily. So we're in a demand zone here, and the market's wrestling with that. The bigger problem we have is that we're in a series of measured moves going lower, right? And until we break that, we're kind of stuck with it. So members, I'm going to assume you guys all have done this, right? So you know the drill, right? You know here, let's get that tightened up. You know what's going on here. Okay, here's the first retrace. Now, we didn't quite get golden zone. Here, let's see, I think out of log, we're at the 50. We can do it out of log because I'm now looking at a range from 32 to 17. Swing 50. All right, here's why I can't get out of here. Let's get you right on that pivot. Swing 50. Swing golden zone. Swing 50. Right, sell side algo is fully in control here. Right, until that breaks, we're kind of stuck. Right, they've got the ball. Right, here's their target. Right now, that creates a problem for this count because we can no longer put the 2 there. So somebody has got to step in here with some muscle, or we're going to go down. Now, again, we'll invalidate this count. This comes off the board. Oh, and then you're back to likely this is a 4, and we're heading down to complete some sort of a 5 here, and you could work this the same way. All right, let's get these off of here. Now that everybody's clear, right? It is the one algo you have to track, right? Or you'll trade right into it. We'll get this one off here as well on this chart. Right, so this would come off the board, no longer a 2, so you're probably looking at some sort of a 4, and then we would use this impulse the same way. Here's the 1, A, B, C of the 2, and then 1, some sort of sloppy correction here. So this would be 1, 2. We're going 3, 4, 5, but you still have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, so that's how you get down to 10K or lower via this is no longer a 1. It's a 4, and this is a 1. This is a 2, 1, 2, and down we go. So what's a trader to do? Well, there's nothing here that says, as we sit here, oh, what a good time to short it. And there's certainly nothing here that says, oh, what a perfect time to buy it. So you're kind of stuck here, right? I mean, here with all that support, here's. Well, I mean, I can promise you there'll be experienced traders hoping that's what they do, right? They're hoping for that, right? Oh, let's sweep the lows and then jack them, right? That's very common. But okay, let's not fill in the blanks until we get there. Right now, I've got some sort of a motive, right? We're progressing the trend. We've retraced, right? It's certainly not impulsive. How far are we going to go here? Well, of course, the first thing. Let's look at where the algo target is. Right here. So you can almost see the script there. Come down, sweep the lows. What's down here? Right? Liquidity. Right? There's there's a truckload of stops down there. Run the stops. Algo pings the target. Right? Now here, where can we get a buy side? Right? That's where we get a buy side. So there's no easy answer here in terms, well, we're out here on 8, 4s. Oh, just for the heck of it, let's go to an hourly. See if there's anything for the short-term traders down here. It's not going to look a whole lot different, right? I mean, how does this get better? How does this get better right here? It doesn't. And this is a floater, right? We're waiting to see if that low gets taken out. But you can just see this a little bit better here. Right. Again, assume that's not a 1. Well, I guess it still could be if we're going to hang on to the idea that we might have the 2 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gives us the A. Oh God. A, B, C. Oh shit. A, B, oh Jesus. A, B, C, D, E. So the E is right here of the B that drives down for the C. So we get A, B, C. Oh fuck. Of the B. Shit. Now I'm screwing myself up. A, B, C. I'm missing them. That's what I'm missing. Moved it around so many times, I've lost track. Let's get that out of there. There we go. Okay, so it's A, B, C of B, rip up for the impulse for the C. All right, so this would be 1. Pardon me. Let's look at it in Elliott context. This would be 1 right here. This, right, so the 2, even though we're expanding the B, is going to pull here. All right, so you're in the pocket here, 50 to the golden zone, already tagged the target. Interesting, right? Now, algo doesn't care about your Elliott count. Right, and that is, I'll let you draw your own conclusion there, okay, as to whether or not that's random or not. So this is so damn ugly. Do you see any way to get out of there? I mean, you're just going sideways, right? I mean, here's the reality. We have no edge here. As a trader, up or down, right? The only edge you have here is that we're in a range. So we get to the we get to the upper end of the range, I want to sell it. We get to the lower end of the range, I want to buy it. I get to the upper end of the range, I want to sell it. We get to the right. Until that breaks, it just continues. Now, is that likely to carry when I'm on a 60? Well, I'd be mindful of this kind of action and this kind of action, right? That's what those that can manipulate, maybe it's the wrong word, but can seduce. How would I say it that way? They can seduce bulls here and bears, right? So you're so vulnerable. Many times I've told you, you do not want to do that. Again, you're going to be so nervous about it because you've just made yourself vulnerable to that. And they will, right? How did these breakout traders do? Right, I've shown it thousands of times, right? It's just a terrible place to enter. That's not to say that it's not sometimes going to work. It's going to work, right? Or we go sideways forever. It's just there's never any reason to expose yourself to getting kicked in the teeth like that. It's just dumb, right? Dumb doesn't survive in the markets. You can't be dumb. You can be lucky, but over time, you can't be stupid, right? You've got to understand where you are on the board and where you're prone to getting manipulated. It's just the reality of trading. I don't care what it is, crypto, FX, equities, indexes, commodities, right? I mean, the big players their job is to take your money, right? And they're very good at it, and they have more money than you or I do. And you don't want to fight them. You want to try and mimic what they're prone to do. Right? I mean, look down here. Right? What do you think's happening down there? I promise you, people are selling this, right? They're thinking, oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to continue to harp on that because sooner or later you're going to stop doing it, right? And I don't know if anybody on here is doing it, right? Maybe you've listened to me long enough, you don't do it anymore. There's just never a reason to, because, and I've shown this 1,000 times, if we do that, the odds are there'll be a retest here because those that are short here will want to know here, what is demand coming here or is more supply going to help me drive it down? So the retest here that's really what you're waiting for. Now, it can get away from you, right? There's no question that can happen and has happened, but odds are there's likely to be some sort of a retrace, right? It's just the way the markets move, right? The people that catch this, they can't resist here. They're going to want, it should say, it's kicking back here. I got to cover. I don't want to give back all my profit, right? That's why we do this over and over and over again. Again, is where I started. Elliott Wave is just fear and greed. It's all it ever is, all it ever was. Okay, so this is nothing we can really sink our teeth into. Could we? Well, we need something big on one side or the other, right? Then we can come back to this and go, oh, okay, now it clears up. Sure can't be a 2. Oh, shit, I guess it still could be a 2. If we get something like that, well, then this stays alive here as a candidate. Until then, we're just kind of stuck in a box here. So what's the hurry, right? There's plenty of things to trade. Bitcoin's not really cooperating here. Again, I'll come back to the good news is that we're not in a free fall here as it's the NASDAQ now, 415, 600 in the Dow, almost 100 in the ES, right? And that's not insignificant, right? With Bitcoin, we're just, we're kind of, relatively speaking, we're not, you would have thought, I mean, there were times when if the S&P was doing that, we'd be pushing new lows here and this would get blown out, but it's not doing it. We're just kind of holding, right? That's not a negative. So what's occurring to you right now? Oh, is that accumulation or distribution? Well, then we're kind of coming back to what's the simplest thing I can see, right? That this would be some sort of distribution because we're going to complete a 5 here. And if we're going to complete that 5, now we're right back to if this is a triangle, we're going to complete that. Are we starting or are we ending? Right? That's constantly going to be the challenge here because it can be interpreted either way. Now, if this was up here, right, if we had this, right, it's not in dispute. But because this can be interpreted as an ABC, it kind of leaves you thinking, okay, is Bitcoin going to 6,000? That would not be my bet. I'm not saying it's not possible, of course, right? It's very possible. But that would, if someone asked me where I think Bitcoin's going to be 6 months from now, 6,000 would not be my answer. And if it were, God, I'd be buying aggressively. That's just me. That's not financial advice. That's me. I'm gonna dollar cost average aggressively because even if it were to get here, where do I think it's going? That's just me. Right? That's my view. That this in 3 years will look quaint. Oh, remember, wasn't that cute when we were at 69? Kind of like 20 was cute when we were at 69. That's me, right? Not financial advice. It's just I'm a long-term believer, right? As I've said many times, I think crypto is just evolution, just financial evolution. All right, I think we covered everything. How am I doing? 29 minutes. That's not terrible. I don't know if there's a whole lot more that I can add here, other than let's keep an eye on the dollar, because this is part of the challenge with Bitcoin. It doesn't look like we've got a clean finish here, unless we would need an overlap here to get some sort of a diag here. So just keeping an eye on the dollar here, probably good for all assets here. Oh, looks like you got to work this, right? We've looked, oh shit here, just because we might have people who haven't seen this before watching here, right? So we have perfect Elliott here, but we don't have the cleanest of finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, ripper in the 5, right? So you can see the potential to get up here to 1618 because we don't have a great finish here. So if I go back to the daily, let's go zip in there, see what we can make of this. Well, you see we hit the 382 to the tick, but this isn't, we don't have a clear, we've got all this overlap here. So we've got, okay, is this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, maybe I've got a 5 here in that 1. There's a 2, but I can't go 3 overlap, right? And it would be shorter, and this is longer. So you're kind of forced into this. Okay, well, if you could see the potential for this to be, oh, maybe that's A, B, C into a 1. There's your, we could squeeze that out. We went to a smaller time frame. I've got a correction here. Now I can't go. Here's what I don't want to do: 1, 2, 1, 2. I can't go 3, 4. The only way I can go 3 here is if I go A, B, C. Well, now I'm assuming it's a diag. A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C, which means I got to have a sell-off here because this has to be the A, this has to be the B, and we have to get a C down here to overlap that 1. So we can call this up for the 5, and maybe we do get the 1618. I think CPI next week will probably give us some clue as to whether or not that's realistic to anticipate that, right? We know it's already baked in, right? 75, 3/4 of a basis point. It's pretty much priced into the market. So if we were going to sell off in anticipation, well, this would be a pretty big sell-off, right? So market's going up today off of jobs data. Are we going to go down off of CPI? Be a little surprising. It's possible. All we need to do is overlap it by a tick. Right, and then we can get a handle on this. Say, okay, it is a diag. It's a pretty ripping diag, right? It looks impulsive, but you can't quite get it to work. I've been through it a couple of times, right? We're already at 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Tricky one, right? So that again, equally as elusive. There's not an easy answer here for the technician, but I certainly am paying attention to whether that gets overlapped or whether or not we just keep rolling higher, right? With this kind of thing, then you're going to have to revisit that entire count and turn these into a series of 1, 2s, which is not friendly to Bitcoin, right? If we're going to keep rolling up here and go to all-time highs, there's just no way for that not to impact Bitcoin, or at the very least, it'll leave Bitcoin going sideways, if not lower, right? So, okay, I think we got it. I think we covered everything there that just in general for review. I think that's all I've got. Okay, guys, that's plenty of listening to me babble. As always here, we'll be back for what we hope to be is a live stream on Monday, depending on the number of submissions we get. So that would be the regular schedule. We'll be back on Monday for a live stream. Every now and then, depending on the number of submissions, if it's a lot, I'll just do it as a pre-recorded, because if I get a bunch that I haven't done the work on, it can make for a lousy live stream as I work through things. But with all that said, I appreciate you guys hanging with me here, and hope you get a little nugget or two out of this, and maybe helps you think about a few things with your own TA. You can always join us, right? As always, you can join us off of the website. You can always join us for free, and then perhaps work your way through the belt system or into the social, and just flex your TA skills. And there you'll find a very welcoming community, a lot of people helping each other. So with that, I will sign off. Wish you guys a good weekend, and the intention is to be back on Monday at 11:30 Central Time with a live stream. Okay, guys, talk to you then.